Hello, welcome back to another talk. My name is Jill Niebuhr. I am Angel Warrior. This is my puppy Duke. We were just settling down, just getting through with our morning routine. I'm drinking my Thrive shake. I actually have to leave in about 20 minutes, and I felt the Lord tell me that He wanted me to do a video on change today. And I would seem pretty well equipped to talk about the subject of change because I have not only had to go through many abrupt changes that I wasn't expecting, but I've also learned to navigate my life according to change and to use it to my benefit. I'll tell you one example of something I do quite often now, and I am a person of routine still. I have things I do every day. I have things I do to stay on task and working towards my goals. But let me see if I can get this a little bit better. I don't think you can really see me quite right there. There we go. Hi. But one thing that I find is there's always ways to improve what I'm currently doing. This is a little crooked. You gotta bear with me. This was kind of a last minute. Well, it was very last minute. It was just like all of a sudden, and I have literally 20 minutes before I have to leave. So this must be important for me to do. And I notice, I'm going to say a few things first. I noticed that so far with the videos, I've been called to do them at certain times, and it's right before something happens, in the world that has to do with what I talked about, like the social media influencer video. It turned out that right after I posted, I found out that Instagram was hiding their likes, and it really had to do with what I was talking about, influencers and how they're feeding public perception through what people, and it could be misunderstandings a lot of times. There could be a lot of misunderstandings. If you're not good at discernment, you won't know the difference between those. And I'm trying to think of what else. And then it's just kind of funny how, this helps my journey to keep going, and it's supposed to help yours to understand things that are going on in our world, in our culture, to give you context, to help you be at your best throughout whatever you're going through in your life. And so it's kind of cool how that works out. So anyways, back to the subject of change. See, I changed there. No, that has nothing to do with it. Yeah, so let's see. I have heard that resilience is a good asset. And this is just what's coming up in my mind. I heard that resilience is a good asset. And that is the ability to bounce back when something happens to you. And I would say that it's actually a lot deeper than just being resilient, because bouncing back would assume that you're going back to your set that you were at. And I believe that the things that happen in our life are meant for a purpose, and they're meant to propel us forward. Even though it can seem like a setback, with the right mindset, those things are propelling us forward to get closer to where we're supposed to be. So I'm thinking of an example that happened to me a few years ago. In my last car, the brakes went out one day when I was driving back from Minneapolis, and it was very scary. The guy in front of me, it was kind of coming up to rush hour, and the guy in front of me literally just slammed his brakes so abruptly, and I tried to slam mine, and it was an old car then, and my brakes went out, and so I hit him, and then he moved forward and hit the car in front of him. And and I didn't like that happening. I had to, it was complicated. It was a lot of work and all of this other stuff. And I had to, it was complicated. It was a lot of work and all of this other stuff. And But what happened is my car, actually, after that accident, my friend, I wasn't even planning on doing anything. My friend offered to fix it for me, and I got a settlement for my car, and I only had to pay a very small portion of that for my friend to fix it for me. So I ended up having like extra money and my car fixed, and my car was actually like, you know, maintained well after that. I had done a lot of work on my car, and then all of a sudden, like after he fixed it, like it ran better than it did before, and he had looked at it, so I knew that nothing was wrong with it. And then recently I sold that car, and after I got an upgrade, and I didn't plan that, and it took extra energy and effort, and I didn't know what I was doing, but now I do know. I know more about insurance, and I know more about just how things work out for the better. And I remember the biggest part of that I want to share is that I remember when we crashed. I thought in my head, and this was a relatively new breakthrough for me to think this way. I thought, there's something in the Bible that says, everything works out for the good. And, when I was a young girl, when I was immature, I didn't understand that. I thought, that's ridiculous. I don't want to accept these good things. I don't want to think they're working out for my good. I don't want them, right? That was my mindset. And now I've come to really, really appreciate those challenges and roadblocks for what they teach me. And when this crash happened, I thought in my head, God's got a reason why this happened. There's a reason, there's a higher reason beyond this crash that this has happened. And I believe it was one of the things that propelled me forward and kept me moving in the right direction. And there's also a spiritual knowledge that if you don't change up quick enough, the universe will make you. I think it's called, in Tarot, I think it's called like the tower moment, where everything crashes because you haven't been keeping up with the changes you need to make, right? And so, and I can very definitely think of that in my really, really big turning point in life. I knew something wasn't right. It just didn't feel right. And I wasn't strong enough at that point to stop what I was doing. I was stubborn. I was full of pride. I didn't want to, and then also the fact that I had been working so hard for a few years to have this law career and the rise that I had seen. I mean, and I was young too. So I didn't want to admit I was wrong. I didn't want to, I was fitting in, right? And I didn't want to have the option of being ostracized for changing, and I didn't want to deal with people's stuff, people not approving of me. And this is a very, very real issue with the way I live my life. I have had to really, really learn how difficult it is to to be a leader and have the energy of people not understanding things, and to be okay with that because that's their place, right? But then also to make sure that it is, to be smart enough to know when to listen and when not to, and then also to learn to get to a place where you can navigate the community that you're in and still have it work out for everyone's benefit is a trick of leadership that is very high level. And so now I'm at this place where it is very different, and it is very I've dealt with all of the real pull energy to stop me from where I need to go. And now I'm feeling this wave, and it's not like everyone is just hurraying for me. People don't understand that it could be for their good. People don't understand that I'm trying to help and not hurt. They've seen me in these challenges in my life, and I haven't always done the best thing. And I would say that it's not that it was bad, it was just that it was challenging me. And so in a midst of a really deep challenge that's causing me to grow, I'm going to be a little out of sorts, and that's not their job to understand that. That's my responsibility to, pick up the pieces and keep moving along, right? And the people that are meant to be on my journey are going to be there no matter what. So, right now I'm seeing this momentum at a different place than my last turning point. It's all for my favor because I've done all of the hard work to get here. And to say I've done hard work is an understatement. And so because I have changed so much, I am inspiring other people to change. I'm a trigger for change in other people's lives. See, some people that were carrying along on my journey for a long time didn't want me to change because that would mean they would have to change. They didn't want to evolve with me. And it doesn't mean that they won't eventually, but at that time they weren't ready, and so that is why I had to move along. Now, this is always the challenge of being closer to a leader. They're going to challenge you. They're going to cause you to stir up the things that you have allowed to be okay that maybe weren't. And it's not easy being in this position because people aren't flat. At the beginning of my career, when I really took a stance, I had a different kind of energy than my big turning point because I had been working towards, putting out my album for a long time. So people were excited at that time. It was huge. Like, people were just nuts and bolts over it, and now it's a lot bigger. It's a lot bigger, and that scares people. And there's nothing to be scared of because I prepared for this. But they haven't seen all of that. There's no way I could have depicted all of the energies that I've been sorting through and all of the changes that it's caused in me along this way to understand to get to this point. But the challenge is always change. The challenge is always, what do we need to change? Because most things are meant to stay the same. And what I mean by that is that we don't want to have too many changes in our life at one time. We want to breadcrumb it, right? We want to say, okay, this is the most important thing right now. What do I need to do to implement it? Am I really ready? What do I need to do to get ready? All of those things are the process of change. So then you're in the process and and then you might fail a while and you might be stuck on something for a while. You might have to go on to a different thing that is really necessary, that you feel in your heart is really necessary to change, so that you can go back to the other one when you're more prepared for it. Sometimes one change can catapult another change into a totally different place. I'll give you an example. I had really tried to quit smoking for a really long time. I mean, it was kind of one of those things where all of a sudden I had been smoking just for fun, right? To see what it was about. And then I took an inhale one day and I was addicted. It was just as soon as that. And then, it was okay for a few years. I just had fun being addicted, and then it came to a point where I wanted to change it. Well, my lifestyle wouldn't allow that, and I tried Shantix at one time, and I quit for a year, but I was still drinking. And so what happened is I was outside with campfire one day and someone was smoking. I thought it looked like a good idea. Had a cigarette. The next day I was smoking again. Okay, not the best time again. So what ended up happening, and I've been smoke-free for 6 years now. What ended up happening is I quit drinking. I quit partying, and like with chemicals, street drugs, all of that stuff. I had quit one year, and I thought, this might be the best time to quit. Now that was against what everyone else had said, and the reason why I felt that way was because I thought this is one of the times of a bigger point of change. Now, it wasn't that I had quit cigarettes at the exact same time that I had quit alcohol, but I had been doing drugs too, and I quit that in that February. I quit alcohol in that August, and then in that December, I had a good 4 solid, it's not a long time, I know, but I had 4 solid months of no drinking. That was huge for me. For me to make it a month was legendary. I'm not even kidding. And I really didn't have any cravings or anything. So I had a good pull on that. It was becoming a habit. 4 months is even though it's not a year's, it is a good time to have a good habit installed. And that was an opening for me to throw in the cigarettes too. I went on Shantix. I did a few things to deal with the coping skills, over the first year. I got stronger, and then, after a year, I was starting to feel a lot better. And by then, when you start to feel better because of the habits, because it might disrupt things, like I was saying. It might cause you to feel uncomfortable. It might, you might have to like push a few days when you don't really want to because it means that much to you. But once you get to that space where it's like, oh, wow, this is making the difference that I wanted it to make. This is why I'm doing this, right? That's the point. That's the point where you're like, I don't want to turn back. I don't want to turn back. I want to keep going on this. So it was strange. It was strange for a while. Over a few years, it was like, sometimes I would think I would have a cigarette in my hand because I always had for so long, and I didn't. But it was freedom. It was freedom, right? We got to ask ourselves about things in our lives. We think that they're adding to us, but it's like, are they really adding to us? Or are they kind of just keeping us in that place that maybe isn't for our best good? Is it kind of that comfort place that, it's what you're used to, but maybe it's not helping you much in your life? And I think a lot of the things that we carry with us in our lives, we don't stop to think. We don't stop to think, like, what is its effect really on us? And it isn't until we believe in something that could possibly be better, and we take that chance that we see, oh wow, it was bad. It was, and I'm using bad as a label. Okay, there isn't really bad and good, but I am saying that it was keeping me in a place that for a time, and it could be better. And I think in my heart that what a lot of people really, really fight against, why a lot of people get mad and why a lot of people get angry, is just because they don't want it to get better. It's not because it couldn't, but maybe they don't believe. Maybe they don't believe they deserve better. Maybe they don't believe that people around them do. And so they keep themselves down just to hurt people around them. Maybe they believe they can't do it, or it's not possible. So the biggest message I want you to take away from this video is that you can have better, and it is okay, and it will not be as bad as your mind would make you think. And why not take a chance and be surprised?